What's up, Hoopers? So this video is going to be about why most of the athletes out there keep hurting their knees, ankles, and hips. And it's very simple, okay? It's very simple. It starts from the foot, and you've probably heard this before. However, I'm going to break it down in the context of what you're doing on the basketball court, okay? Or any sport for that matter. So think about this, right? So if you're in your basketball shoes and say, for example, you are going about your practice, your scrimmage, your game with a foot, I'm gonna take my shoe off for a second, with a foot, see my foot there, Nick, I don't know if you can zoom in there, with my foot that's maybe collapsed in like this, okay? Imagine a foot like this, where all the toes are together, okay? And you have a bunion, so you have like a big old bunion sticking out there. Most athletes I see have a foot like this, and their foot is kind of collapsed inward. And sure, they have a basketball shoe that has a lot of support, but think about it. Every time they're trying to cross someone over, this is the kind of foot positioning they have, okay? There's no support coming from the bottom other than the bone, okay? The inside part of this toe, the bone pushing through. So of course that bone has to get thicker and thicker and thicker and create a bunion, okay? And if you can't push through there, then of course the body's gonna try to find the next joint to take up the tension or the load. The next joint is going to be the knee, and before it does the knee, it might do a lot of quad, it might do a lot of inner calf, which is why a lot of you have really tight calves, tight ankles, and even tight quads. Then you try to cross someone over and your foot's like this. There's no power coming from your foot. And yes, you can develop, sure, and you can get some adaptation in this shape. You can still get strong in this shape, but not functional for very long, okay? So if I do this for hundreds of cycles, 2 hours every day playing my sport, practicing, imagine what that's gonna do to the ankle. It's gonna make it worse and worse. You're gonna get a bigger bunion, your ankle's gonna get tighter and tighter, your calves are gonna get tight, your knees are gonna take the load, and if the knees start to feel painful, guess what? The hip and the lower back begin to take the work too. So now your back's doing this, okay? And it's also why a lot of you can't get very low on your crossovers. Or you can't get here, okay? And the reason why you can't get there, again, it starts with the idea that your foot cannot separate. It can't spread like that, okay? It needs to spread the floor. So now when you cross someone over, it's boom, your toe can actually turn, boom. Okay? And if your toe can't turn and it just collapses into the bone, then of course you're gonna have problems to the foot, the ankle, the knee, and hip indefinitely. Okay? Now think about this in the context of even jumping, right? If you're jumping and you're coming down off a rebound, I'm not gonna actually do it because it's gonna hurt me. But if I come down and I'm landing and I land like that, okay? So I land like this, where the foot's collapsing into the shoe because my toe cannot open up like this and land actually on the toes, then guess what? Again, you're now putting all your weight on that one foot, okay? On that one foot, over and over, where it's collapsing into the arch, the knee, and the hip. The same issue. If I go this side too, it's the same problem. The foot's collapsing inward, okay? Now put that on hundreds of cycles. Every day you practice, 2 hours a day, for 4 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year. Imagine what that's doing to your joints, okay? I want you to take this concept away. Before we show you 2 things you can start doing to begin to reverse that, take away these 2 concepts. Concept number 1, okay? You have something called passive structures and active structures. Your passive ones are your bones, okay? Just the bones, and then your cartilage, okay? Your active structures are your muscles, your fascia, okay? Your tendons, your ligaments. These are things that can control where you place the load and take stress off the passive structures. So your whole goal as an athlete, playing ball, hooping, right, is to take load off the bones and put it on the active structures, the muscles, the hamstrings, the quads, the calves, the shin, the arches of your foot. There's a lot of muscle underneath the foot if you really learn to activate it. And if you can't access stuff up here, if your foot's inactive and it's just like this. So you have to access your foot first in order to access everything else upstream. So we're going to show you 2 movements. Okay, 2 movements you can begin to do to start getting access to your foot. And if you can unlock that over time, then you can unlock the entire chain. Make sure you watch our previous video where we talk about the movements you can begin to do to start dropping your hip, knee, and ankle injuries by 50%. Okay, watch that one first. Come to this video next and really watch and implement this stuff after the fact. But don't jump steps. You need to do the soft tissue work. You need to do all of that active work in the beginning before you start doing this advanced work we're about to show you. All right, ballers, so here are 2 movements to help you start reducing your knee, ankle, and hip injuries. And the first one's gonna be a toe stretch, the second one's gonna be a toe raise. So toe stretch, you wanna get the base of your big toe, okay, right there, and the toe on top of your bench. The rest of your toes are hanging off. Now for those of you that are more advanced, you can have more of your toe at the edge and you can work this, okay? For those of you that cannot even get any push at all, then get your base of your big toe on top of the bench. This depends on where you're at. We want you to challenge it if you can, going here, but if you can't, start with the base of the big toe on. Once you get on here, guys, your hands go down and you're trying to stretch and bend that big toe. You can see it bend like so. Okay, and if you really do it correctly, where you're not falling out to the outside or falling out this way into the bone, then you're going to feel all the right stuff. But so make sure you're bending to the thickest part of your toe. You should not be falling into the bone on the inside or the bone on the outside of the toe. So when you're going, make sure it's thickest part of the toe. The knee goes in a little bit over the big toe. Knee in line with the big toe. Knee doesn't go out. Knee doesn't go too far in. Just in line. And then you start to really bend that big toe, and you also start to push into the bench a little bit. If you do it right, you're probably going to feel some Achilles stuff happening. You're going to feel your shin light up. You'll feel your VMO, this quad muscle right here, light up. Now, the goal is not necessarily to get your knee all the way down. It's to see how much your toe can still bend. Yes, you want to see if you get your knee lower and lower, but only if you can feel those muscles fire. This should not happen. Knee should not fall out. Knee should be over the top of the big toe. Should be really stretching to that big toe. Okay? Hold this for about 3 minutes. Okay, 2 or 3 minutes. If you can't get 2 or 3 minutes, then break it up into sets. Do a set of a minute, break it up, next 2 sets. The ultimate goal is to be able to hold that for at least 8 to 10 minutes. That's the ultimate. You don't have to get it all at once. Start with 2 to 3. Get really good at it. Then improve. You got to think about this, guys. Your toe is being subjected to a lot of stress when you're playing your sport. You're jumping on it. You're sprinting. You're cutting on it. You have to give it time to open up. He said, don't rush this process. Don't let your toe collapse into the bones. Make sure it's on the thickest part of the toe and then work through it. After you completed your reps, your time held in the stretch, then what we want you to do is work on toe raises, okay? Now, most of you are not going to be able to get much push off in the beginning, so I suggest get really good at the stretch first before you do this movement. When you're good at the stretch and you feel all those things fire, that means you'll be good at the raise, because everything that's firing on the stretch is going to have to fire on this raise, okay? Now, a couple ways to do it. One, also, by the way, when you're doing the stretch, heads up, the opposite knee, guys, should be just resting on the bench. Opposite knee is just bent and rests on the bench like this. That way you can just rest and go after it. If you have this leg too far out, it's going to be difficult, so make sure this foot is pretty close, just resting on, and you can go after the movement, okay? Once you've gotten this stretch done, the toe raise works like this. You can do it standing, okay? Problem is, again, same thing, this knee's going to rest. Problem is it's hard to get enough pressure on the toe, unless you push down with your hand. And then once you get some pressure, you're going to push through your big toe, only your big toe, to get your heel to lift. Okay? So your heel should be lifting up as a result of you pushing through this toe only. So if you're just coming here and just pumping it, you're not going to get any results. Your goal is to make sure your toe is the reason why your heel's lifting, not anything else. So if I'm here, guys, I'm pushing through the toe. Then back down. And again. And here's your goal on this. Your goal is to get at least 40 reps in a row. And you're probably not going to get 40 off the bat. It's probably not going to happen. But that's the goal, 40 reps. And when you can get 40, then I want you to load it with weight. I want you to put like a 10-pound kettlebell, 15-pound kettlebell, 20, whatever it takes. At least quarter of your body weight should be right here on this knee while you work through the big toe. Really load into the big toe here. And for those of you that can do this pretty easy, then I suggest getting here, load into it some more, and then push. But most of you will probably not be able to do that version, so stay here and work through it, guys. Make sure this knee is resting up against it. It's gonna burn the entire chain. The bottom of the arch too is gonna start to light up. And if the bottom of the arch is lighting up and it's working hard, you're doing it correctly, because that's what needs to get stronger. You need to build your arches. And when you step down, you should feel like, man, my feet feel wider. There's space between my toes now. Because you never want this. The more that happens, you put yourself at risk for injury at every joint upstream, all the way up to even your shoulder and neck, okay? So I want you to get 40 reps of this right here, body weight, and then 40 reps, a quarter of your body weight. Just place the bell right here and work through it. We'll probably show you another video for that. And then for your stretch, work up to at least first 3 to 5 minutes. Get that down packed. And then 8 to 10 minutes after that, okay?